nephew named Michael. Michael asks a very simple, boom, and it's a very easy question for me to answer, very to the point. And the thing I also like about it is it gives me a chance to talk about that great podcast I had with Brett Contreras. I'm going to try to get on a monthly call with Brett. There's a couple other people I'm going to start trying to have, monthly, every other monthly calls with to talk. And by the way, if you have ideas of somebody you'd like me to talk with, now the thing is, a lot of big names in the industry will not be on a podcast with me on a regular basis. Sometimes, honestly, because they don't. Okay, this sounds horrible. Not everybody who's famous on the social media things about fitness and training are actually truly in real life competent. They might have a good show, a good gig. They might have a good line, a no catchphrase. I'm working on mine. Do you like that? I don't. But I think a guy like Brett Contreras, I'm thinking about Matt, I'm thinking about, Boyle maybe, I'm thinking about some other people who would be an interesting monthly conversation, bi-monthly conversation, and would be able to, keep resonating with the audience and keep, expanding. Yeah, so that's what I would like. So Michael, here's Michael's question. I loved your recent podcast with Brett Contreras, but I am curious why you are so interested in your hips and why nobody else incorporated hip movements like you and Brett do. Michael, it shocks me to see that. I mean, I always review the questions and I think about them a lot before I answer them. And I know I read that, and I guess it was reading it out loud that made me go, wow. The fact that nobody else incorporates hip movements like you and Brett do would make me want to say this to you, Michael. Don't listen to anybody who doesn't. If people are not focusing on that hinge movement, fire them. Get off their thing. Stop buying their products. Get away from their magic mojo. Yeah, maybe you'll look better on the beach doing their programs than I will. Or, well, actually, you'll probably look better for your... Somebody told me the other day that for every photo they put up, they take 300 to get one. Holy cow. You took 300 pictures of me. I guarantee we'd find one that makes me look good. Enough. I'm getting off town. Yeah, man. Hey, listen, Michael, the hips are the secret to success. When I was young, every book always had a picture of a guy like this, okay? And there was these concentric circles. Like when you drop a stone in a lake or a pond, and it goes boop, 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 boop. Well, right here, right there, right around the belly button was the first circle. And when I was young, we were taught that if it ain't your butt, your hips, your spinal erector, those were the secrets. Your ab wall, your psoas family, and all those they all played together in this magical game of high performance. From there, of course, your thighs and your lats would be the next big ones to really focus on. And when I say thighs, I mean the whole family. And when I mean lats, I would include any of the X's here. I wouldn't worry much about pecs as some people do, because of course I'm not a bodybuilder type, so maybe I'm not. And then of course, as you get to the calves, forearms, biceps, they become less and less important. There's a great book about the University of Texas football program in the 60s called Meat on the Hoof. Very unpopular book in Texas, where he talks about he began to pick up as an athlete that, guys with the big calves, guys with the big hamstrings, guys with the big butts are the guys who knock you down and hurt you. One of the things you pick up when you go to elite performance, speaking of, I just mentioned Steve-O, but when I first worked with him, he had the same kind of question. So I made him go to the Stanford Invitational, and he sent me back a very famous little text message that said, butts, butts, butts. Elite performance, it can be seen in the butt. And of course, the stronger the butt is, generally, the better the ab wall looks. As I strive in my mid 60s to have a beach body, the best way to build the ab wall, weirdly, for a lot of people, is get the butt up first, and then the ab wall with dietary intervention suddenly looks magnificent. Yeah, hey man, if people are not talking about, I don't know. Of course, Brett made that line that is $1 million to me. He said, "Goblet squats is the jumping goblet squats, like the hip thrust is to the kettlebell swing." And I thought to myself, that's money. That is money. Um, if you're not doing the grind family with the hip thrust, most of the squat family, most of the deadlift family, the swing, the snatch, the clean, well, those, there you go. There's your perfect workout. Even someone so Phil Maffetone has his golf training program, and you can find it online or you can buy the book. But personally, I would just go online because the book basically just tells you this. He has you do a little warm up, and then you do a set of 5 in the squat. You rest 2.5 minutes. You do a set of 5 in the deadlift, and I think you do that for 5 or 7 rounds or something like that. Those are the only 2 exercises: squat and deadlift, squat and deadlift, squat and deadlift. And the reason he does it in that order is he believes you need a longer rest period between squats and deadlifts. He says, whether this is true or not, I never followed these rules. God, people tell me they rest for 5 to 7 minutes between sets. I'm always like, God, what do you do for a life? That's just me. But you squat a set of 5, you rest 5 minutes. You squat a set of 5, you rest 5 minutes. Squat. Well, that's doing that with squats and deadlifts would make a very long workout. Could be an amazing workout, but it'd be long. Maffetone is telling golfers to squat and deadlift. Of course, Brett has completely, I think, completely changed the world of female physique contestants because of his influence with the glute stuff. So yeah, I would say, hips, glutes, and let's go back again. So it's hip thrust, deadlift, swing, clean, snatch, squat family, prowlers, sled pulls, hill sprints. I mean, those are all the $1 million exercises. But here's the problem. They all take some discipline and dedication to learn. And those are all the exercises that make you kind of go, whew, when you're done doing them. So that might be the reason they're not as popular. What benefit does adding glute and hip work add to normal weightlifting routines for someone who's in his mid-30s looking to get stronger and more athletic? Let me say this as nicely as I can, and boy, this will make an interesting thing. I'm 65 years old, and people comment on how nice my butt looks. They do, and I blush. When you talk to a lot of women, they don't really notice my armacondus, but they do notice the butt. The butt is almost universally a symbol of health. If you have soggy bottom, it is generally a sign that you're not in the level of health that you should be. For performance, Coach Steve-O said it better. Butts. Yes. So, one thing, and if you don't mind, this is just a tiny little point, but I'm doing the glute loop work, like the hip thrust and clamshell, before my Olympic lifting workouts now. Somebody told me I'm activating my glutes. I don't know if I'm doing that, but I tell you one thing: after you do your hip thrust and your clamshells, your Olympic lifts, the warm-ups feel smoother. Now, it could just be you did more warm-up, but they feel smoother and faster. And at my age, the glute is the symbol of youth, so I have to keep it up. Michael, I love this question. Michael's question is, why do Brett Contreras and I talk so much about the hips? Because it literally is the seat of power. It is the secret to your strength. Tommy Kono, the great American weightlifter and Mr. Universe, he talked about that in all of his books and all of his articles. I don't know of a powerlifter who would ever disagree. It's to coach, what Coach Steve-O said at Stanford Invitational is so true. Elite performance is butts. So if you can do your hip thrust, your clamshells, your squats, your swings, your hinge family, you're going to take care of business. And I think in your 30s, you'll be glad you did it in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. I would put them as exercise number one right now. Body part focus number one. Great question, Michael. And that's going to bring us to an end today.